Recording in progress.
Well, welcome everyone. It's now about 6:31 p.m. I'd like to call to order the Fenton Township Board meeting on this 19th day of April 2022. I would please ask everyone to stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Gopal, will you lead us?
Yes, thank you. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of community. We ask for peace in the warring countries, bless the sick, the injured, and those who have passed as we pray for an end to the conflict that exists today. We ask this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, thanks Mark, I appreciate it. Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Lorraine,
Present.
Reed,
Here.
Kotrick,
Present.
Krug is present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal.
Here.
Tucker is currently absent. You have 6 members available.
Thanks, Bob. I'd like to note for the record that Township Attorney Jack Belzer, our Operations Manager Tom Broker, and our Fire Chief Ryan Volz are also present here this evening. Additionally, the following Township officials are present virtually via Zoom. Our Township Engineers Alan and Melissa Lawrence. Tom, will you detail the procedures for those attending tonight's virtual meeting?
Yes. To members of the public attending tonight's meeting in person or via Zoom, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded to be shown on public access television, Spectrum Channel 191. Recorded meetings are also posted on the Fenton Area Community Television YouTube channel. For those attending via Zoom, we ask that you keep your microphone muted until we reach portions of the meeting where public comment is allowed, at which time further instruction will be given. For tonight's meeting, there are no public hearings, therefore all public comment will be taken near the end of the meeting. Meeting materials are available for download on the Township's website at www.fentontownship.org.
Thanks, Tom. All right, the first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda? All right, hearing none, there's a motion is in order to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Support.
All right, the motion's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Present.
yes is the right answer.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Kotrick.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Lorraine,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, the agenda stands approved as presented. Next business in order is the meeting minutes. Including the packet are the meeting minutes for the April 5th regular meeting. Are there any corrections or requested revisions to these meeting minutes? Hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Moving on, the next business in order is expenditures. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the invoices? Hearing none, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $689,895.84 for payment.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Reed,
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Kotrick,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
All right, expenditures stand approved as presented. Next business in order is public hearings. This evening we have none. Moving on to the next business in order is reports. We do have Fire Department first quarter report. Our Township Fire Chief, Ryan Volz. Will you please review?
All right, so our first quarter for Fenton Township, we had 143 alarms. Of those, we had 6 fires, 74 EMS calls, 9 hazardous conditions, 12 service calls, 33 good intent calls, and 9 false alarms. Now those numbers I broke down the chart that I gave you guys, you can go through and define it on the fires and stuff. It defines all the numbers of what actually occurs during, on the 100s, 400s, 500, 600 series calls, if you have any questions on those. Of those alarms, we had in Tyrone Township 18 of them. There were 10 EMS calls, 3 hazardous conditions, 1 service call, 3 good intent calls, and 1 false alarm. And that's our first quarter for Fenton and Tyrone Township.
Thanks, Chief.
Chief,
Yeah, is there any questions for the
Yes.
chief?
how is our Fenton Township, or Tyrone Township contract, mutual aid thing going?
It's actually going pretty good. Their
Still okay on the prices?
prices are good. I think they went up. I think last year they went up, so I think it's like every 2 years or whatever the review on it.
Kind of a break even though? I mean,
Yeah, that's pretty much the goal of it.
Okay, yeah, alright. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board, the chief? Thanks, chief.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Moving on, the next ordinance is ordinance enforcement first quarter report. I'm sure everyone on the board has reviewed the report. Are there any questions at all? I don't think there's a reason to go over them. So, hearing none, we'll move on. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board this evening?
I probably should say a few things about planning commission. I don't usually bring the board up to speed, but we've had a little bit of excitement down at the planning commission level, and you may be seeing some things as a result of that. I'll start, there was an applicant requesting a dog kennel on the corner of Linden and Larry. Started with the sign that said it was coming. Short version is, requires a special use permit. I think we've had 4 hearings on it. There's a large dispute between the applicant and the surrounding owners of the property who are constructing houses there about whether it's suitable for the area. There's 7 criteria that you look at when you evaluate these special use things. And last Thursday, we voted, I think we had 1 abstention, and I think it was 5 to 1 against issuing the special use permit. The applicant is a very nice lady, she's very persistent. I've been informed that there's been threats of lawsuits. The situation's a lot more complicated than what I'm saying, but that's out there, it's pretty volatile. A lot of neighbors involved in opposition to it, and a strong following for the applicant. I've said before, at the planning commission level, the only thing you get positive, people saying positive things about is anything to do with animals. You'll get support in for that, and she has that.
Is the support that she's getting coming from township residents?
There are some, the majority of them are not township residents.
And the people opposed, are they all township residents, or are they, property owners from?
Yeah, they own,
the
they're property
developers?
owners, they're township residents. I don't know anybody that isn't a township resident that's in opposition. I mean, they're both lawyered up. I mean, it was, that kind of a thing. So I don't know if that's just talk or not talk, but, it's been fairly acrimonious. It may result in litigation. We'll find out within 21 days. The other thing that I want to make you aware of is we're currently evaluating final site plan for, we're going to call it Phase 3 of Stony Brook. It's got a different name. I think it's West Winds. Help me out, Melissa. Have I got it right? She's not.
Yes, it's West Winds.
Yeah, West Winds. So, try to make this story short as well. When we approve developments, usually there's an up to number of units that can be built. And the way it works out is that's a theoretical maximum, so you have to wait until final site plan to see if they have the open space, they have the right lot widths, they have the right lot square footage. Can they get that number of units into the piece? And if it's an open space piece, do they have the required open space in terms of square footage? And the ordinance is pretty clear that when you're doing those calculations, you do it based on usable land. We call it net. So what you do is you take gross acreage and subtract out things you can't use. Detention ponds, road right-of-ways, 2008, when we were doing 5 of those a month, it was a well-known process. You know, the math was well-known that you use net numbers, not gross numbers. Well, it's been a long time now, so this one got a long way through the process with people thinking they were entitled to the maximum number. And it was just frankly caught just at kind of at the tail end. It became apparent that they were doing their math based on gross numbers and not net numbers. So we're in the process of looking at it. There's been no final decision made. We passed on the final site plan approval to go back to see what happened. Now this takes you back to Stony Brook, which was early 2000s. So Mike Deem is pulling documents together so we can look and kind of see what happened. We're trying to figure out exactly when the open space ordinance passed. He thinks it's 2005. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but anyway, there's and the difference is substantial, and I'll just use round numbers, but it's a difference of 40 units, 200 versus 160, and those are just ballpark, but the spread is roughly 40, so it's a significant thing. So there's been no final determination on that, but I just want to make everybody aware that that issue's out there. I have suggested, and we will probably see, that we revise the ordinance to put an example of the calculation in the open space section, because the things that talk about net are in footnotes, and I mean, they're there, you can find them when you read them, but I don't think there was anything deceptive about the applicant trying to put anything biased. The engineer they use is a well-respected engineer. I think he looked at the ordinance and he didn't get it. So I think if we put a little story in here that here's a site plan and here's how the math works, so that it's clear when you're looking at this, everybody understands you use net numbers, not gross numbers. I think the ordinance says that now, but if we got to this point, and part of the problem is Mike Deem is new relative to subdivision approval. He's been here a few years now, but there haven't been any subdivisions come in. He didn't know any of the history, so part of it was getting him up to speed on that too. He's been taking copious notes, so I don't think we'll have the issue going forward, but
The ordinance is a good idea.
I think for clarity, because honestly, I'm the only one that's been around now since back when we were doing a ton of subdivisions. Val's retired, Penny's retired, so I'm the only one that kind of remembers all that, and it's great. I'm still breathing, but tomorrow I might not be. So, if I had raised my hand and said, excuse me, it would have just kind of gone through and nobody would know anything about it. So I think it's wise just to carry, so we know what it's supposed to be done, that we do that. So you'll probably be seeing that in the not too distant future. While I'm talking, I also did some digging on Fenton Orchards. This is the one where we got tax reverted units, and the association is doing everything that they can to keep us from selling them, including recording an affidavit that slanders our title. They just got that recorded in the last couple days. They tried to amend the master deed.
Sorry, the signers are what?
Slander our title to those units.
Oh, okay.
It's an affidavit that says our
Okay.
units don't exist, because the signer of the affidavit knows how the law works, and they're gone. Well, they're wrong. So I went back through the master deed. They also tried to amend the master deed to pull the units out of the master deed. We were able to intercept that before it got recorded. The master deed itself requires the township's approval to amend the master deed.
Wouldn't pulling them out of the master deed indicate that they were there
In the
they
first
were
place.
actually there in the first place? I mean,
Well, they don't dispute that they were there in the first place. There's a provision that if you don't act within 10 years, now this is the old statute,
Converted back.
they changed it a few years ago now, so that there's a required vote of the association by 2/3 majority. This predates that, but the bottom line is, this is a site condominium, okay? All you build when you build a site condominium is the road and utility feeds to the different units. So they're trying to say, because you didn't build the units themselves, that you can now no longer build them. That's poppycock. It's an English term.
meaning,
I don't know, something in Latin.
Okay.
Did you have a chance to talk to their council?
I called them, I just got voicemail. I had discussions with, it's the same attorney that drafted the recent affidavit. This was in 2018, where I had discussions, and when I told him it was a site condo, I thought he'd kind of gone away and ran the other direction. He's either forgotten or been given instructions to do otherwise, but I'm going to have the discussion with him. We'll see where it goes, but I'm probably gonna suggest that we send a letter to the residents in that condominium telling them what's about to happen if they wanna go down that path and see if the, cause I don't think the residents are behind this. I think there's one or two or three people on the board behind this, and the attorney's just doing what the attorney's told. But maybe not, maybe they're doing this with knowledge of forethought, but, we'll see where it goes. That's where it sits today.
So that sale is still pending?
It's still pending, but they want title insurance. That
Sure.
affidavit they recorded yesterday is designed specifically to prevent them from, well, you can get title insurance, but it's gonna have an exception.
Right.
You know, which isn't how that generally works, so, I would hope that I'd be able to talk them into retracting their position so we can close, because if we end up fighting, that's not a fast process, so whether the buyer hangs around, we had competitive buyers, as you all know, so it wasn't just one, there was two of them, so.
And just so you know, I've met with Mr. Niebuhr twice. So
Did
he's
you?
still
Yeah.
interested in the properties. He's had all of his due diligence is completed, so.
In case you're all wondering what's about it, while I was looking through everything, including the master deed, which clearly says it's a site condominium, clearly, there's actually a disclosure statement. There was a letter from 2018 from the same attorney, and in that letter, he asserts that it's the association that has the right to sell the units. So if you're wondering what this is about, okay, if you didn't figure it out already beforehand, it's about scratch.
The dollar.
It's about the scratch, so they're gone, they don't exist anymore, but they can sell it. Only they can sell it. I'm just saying.
So what else have you been doing?
I did a little bit of my day job too.
Did a
some
little
day
work for
job.
me.
Did some day job.
All right, Treasurer Tucker, I appreciate, and that was
I try not to bore you with the planning.
no, that was a
stuff.
big update on the
That's a
planning
good
commission, and
update.
all three were important, so I
Stuff that you
appreciate
need to
that.
know, I
It's a good
think, so.
update.
And Kimberly was great, by the way. That was her first. Actually,
Oh,
she was the
that's
extension
right.
though.
Is there any other reports to be made to the board this evening? All righty. Hearing none, the next business in order is communications. Tonight, we have none. Moving on to adoption of ordinances, we have none. Moving on to unfinished business. I just want to remind everyone, the board of a special meeting regarding easements for the Silver Lake Road State Bank Trail. That meeting will be held next Monday. You all should have been notified at 6 p.m. here at the Township Hall. Also, just a reminder that our next regular meeting is on May 10th. As you know, it falls every other week, but this time it's going to be 3 weeks. So, board meeting will be 3 weeks, and it will be on May 10th.
An election, why are we moving it? Election.
Well, it was scheduled that way.
Scheduled that way.
Yeah.
In anticipation of an election, which we
Then
ended up not having.
The election
okay.
fell
You
through.
get a 3-week gap one way or the other, so.
Yeah, okay.
Just roll with it.
I think we have 2 of those, don't we, in a year? 3-week gaps? For some reason? Can't remember. 4? All right, next business in order is new business. We have proposed legal services rate change, township attorney. Jack, I'm actually going to, for the record, read your letter.
Are you gonna do it in his voice?
I could try.
Please don't.
I received a letter dated April 7th of this month. It says, "Dear Supervisor Lorraine, this letter is to set forth the request to adjust the hourly rate for the undersigned attorney representing the township. Our current rate is $140 per hour plus $500 per month for the 2 township meetings. Our proposal is to raise the hourly rate to $155, so from $140 to $155. The undersigned attorney has been licensed since 1973 and has a vast amount of municipal experience. At the current time, we are doing work for the township of Mundy, City of Grand Blanc, City of Flint, and have in the past represented numerous municipalities including Flint Township, Clayton Township, the Village of Goodrich, City of Burton, as well as assisting other municipal attorneys in matters in which they are engaged in. The proposed rate is comparable or less than what the undersigned is receiving from other municipalities. This is substantially less than the rate charged for work performed as a private attorney not representing municipalities. We proposed that this rate increase take effect on May 1st, 2022, signed F. Jack Belzer. Is there any comments from the board?
With respect to the penultimate sentence, it is substantially less than the rate charged for work performed as a private attorney not representing municipalities. I can testify under oath that that is factually accurate. That rate is way below, and it's not just Jack. I mean, it's the municipal law area in general. That's insurance defense also is the same way. I don't know that they're this low. I don't know how you survive on that kind of a rate, but.
He's okay.
I know he is.
I love Jack.
But you remember, he's been married before, though.
Well.
Rumor has it the Mexican pizza is coming back to Taco Bell. Jack will survive.
Well,
I have no problem.
Speaking from the corporate world, $155 per hour is unbelievably low. I also, as a supervisor, would like the board to know that Jack makes himself available to me almost 18 hours out of the day. Whether I see him at the gym, if I call him in the morning, I can text him, and within 5 minutes, Jack returns my phone call. I only do that if it's important, so just want to let you know that Jack is, for me personally, has always been there when I needed him, and has always given me the correct advice, and I treasure what he does for the township, and I respect what you do for the township, Jack.
I concur.
Actually, is there any other comments at all?
I just want to confirm the $500 per month is staying the same? Or
Yeah, that's been something the township's done for a long time,
okay.
long before me.
Right.
Well, Vince is helping your hourly rate on that one.
Yeah.
Improve a little bit.
Yeah.
So just for the record, I'd like to ask, how long has the $140 an hour been in effect? Like, how many years?
Ever since I came here, I don't know.
2016.
2016.
Okay.
Has it been that long?
6 years.
Yeah, I guess so.
'Cause I remember having the initial conversation with
Okay.
him at Genesis.
I think that
Yeah.
Yeah.
sets a bar.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, I'm actually going to move the motion to revise the hourly rate of $155 for legal services provided to Fenton Township by attorney F. Jack Belzer effective May 1st, 2022, as presented.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Krug, will you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Contract,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
I vote yes. Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, next under new business is proposed amendment to CityWorks license and maintenance agreement. Jeff Lewis is here with us tonight from CityWorks, or from North Arrow Technologies. Give us a presentation.
Good evening. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to present a couple projects that we are looking to get board approval on with existing or two existing things that we have going on with the township. My name is Jeff Lewis. I own North Arrow Technologies. We were formed in 2000 as a GIS consulting company here in Fenton Township. Became a partner of the GIS software, the standard, ESRI in 2002, and CityWorks, an asset management software, in 2003. On the slide, you'll see some of the communities that we work with around the area, quite a few. Pretty much anybody who's doing GIS and asset management, we work with them if they don't do it in-house. Next slide. Let's talk about Fenton Township. With Fenton Township, next slide. We implemented GIS here in 2002. We implemented CityWorks in 2003. So we've been working with Fenton Township for 20 years now, and I appreciate the continued work. I hope that you guys see the benefits of what we do. Let's talk about the CityWorks software. It originally was put in 2003 as part of your administrative consent order that was signed with the state of Michigan for your sanitary sewer infrastructure. It is a CMMS. It is a computerized maintenance management system. The software manages the assets, schedules maintenance, and tracks work performed. What we're using CityWorks for, because you guys are 100% contractor based, is really to document all the work that is being done on the sewer infrastructure. We have over 24,000 work orders in the system since 2003. CityWorks is currently installed on your servers in-house. What we are looking to do is to migrate it to a hosted and online situation. Some of the benefits for CityWorks Online: it's hosted. You don't have to have it on your servers. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to have IT there. Access to CityWorks from anywhere, and this is the biggest proponent and the reason why we're asking you guys to make this change in the way CityWorks is because right now, CityWorks is only accessible on the Township network, on computers in this building, not even at the DPW. So what we're doing is looking to gain access for engineering and Township staff, not only us, to create this work history of everything that's been done. What also is an online benefit is that it stays current with the latest version of CityWorks. It is always up to date. All of the updates are performed by CityWorks directly. They offer real-time automated backups of your databases. So looking at this migration and the costs involved, our current 2021 software costs are about $2,748 a year. Okay? That is for CityWorks server to be in-house at almost $1,500 a year, and that gives you 3 logins. We also, with it being housed here, need the GIS side of things, a server-based. That's $1,250 a year.
What's a login?
A login is a named user that can access it.
3 people can access it.
Yes. So proposing software, with this change, will go to $4,600 a year from the $2,748. That's what the cost is for CityWorks Online, because they are hosting it. They have it in a cloud server, they manage the server, they do all of the updates for you, and keep it live and available all the time. With that change, we will not need ArcGIS server, saving that $1,250 a year every year. So truly, the additional cost to migrate this to an online is $1,852 per year. That's the increase to the current budget of what we spend in software. I am, in existing hours that I have for maintenance contract, I am doing the migration, getting CityWorks, if this is approved, getting them the database. I've cleaned it, put it to the latest version of what they are online, and it's ready to hand off to them. And they will do it for that change in cost per year. Next slide. That is the CityWorks project. That's what I'm proposing, the increase for you guys. I have another project that we've talked about. Any questions on the CityWorks before we move on?
Let me stop you here. We're going to ask the board if you have any questions for Jeff regarding the CityWorks project.
You see any downsides going to the cloud?
Do I see any downsides?
Yes.
I do not.
Just the cost.
Just the cost. The ability for your engineering firm and for other township staff to access this is really what we're trying to do.
Why can't I do that through a VPN?
You could. You could.
I will tell you right out front, I am not a big fan of software as a service. Okay. Right now, the cost is $1,852 per year more. I have no guarantee what that's going to be going forward. Once they have your data and you're on the cloud, you are vulnerable. As attorneys, we have issues, ethical issues about the data, because no longer does the data reside in your control. It's in the cloud. Now, can you download it through backups and all that kind of thing? Maybe. I don't know how that works. But that's ethically what we have to look at before we can put files up in the cloud. But my biggest issue is cost, because it's always more, and it's not anything bad about CityWorks. Every single software provider wants to get to that model because they make more money. Okay, but I've held out so far in the practice of law, I've refused it. Our time management software went to this probably 8 years ago. I didn't do it. I continue to use the software today. It continues to function fine, continues to do what I need it to do. 2 years ago, my billing software tried to force us to go to software as a service. I refused. I eliminated my monthly payments for that completely. It still works. I don't do that for Microsoft operating systems for security reasons. I think those have to be kept current. So I buy those licenses, you know, as the end of life goes out, actually before end of life on the prior years. I will upgrade those. So I guess question for you is, when is end of life for the current CityWorks software that we have installed on the server?
There is not a current end of life currently. You can upgrade to new versions. And one thing to mention to you guys, this is nothing that, the only reason that I'm presenting this to you guys is because of access, because it doesn't get accessed enough as it is, and to gain some better communication between engineering, your maintenance contractor, and us, and what work is being done and recorded.
I would probably, if it was me, and I'm open, I'm just telling you what I think and what my starting points are, but if it was me, I would just put VPNs in between here and the engineers, allow them to access that. You can limit it to just that access. Staff shouldn't have any issues with if you want them to have that kind of access, but that's a nominal cost, and I just, I'm cost sensitive. I'm not a big fan of software as a service, and I understand why. And eventually you probably get forced there, but I hold out until they take the hill from me.
Well, I will just speak, I agree with 100% of what you said. However, being in the publishing industry, I can just tell you, all software is going to go
Don't doubt it.
to the cloud. Almost every software we use, they just get to the point where they're not going to touch it anymore.
Yeah.
And they say, you know, so if you have anything that goes wrong with it, they won't provide a service for it. You know, they're not going to
Right.
respond to anything, so.
And that's
to
what
me-
pushes it, is the end of life.
That's the end of life issue,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I guess my question to you is, Jeff, when you say there, you know, for the foreseeable future that there's no end of life, is that because you are writing the software and so
Not at
there
all.
is a third party, and you're telling me that there is no end of life in the future, that this company is sooner or later gonna say, no, this is gonna all go to the cloud?
Well, I guarantee you, it'll end up going to
Yeah.
the cloud.
I agree with you.
But right now, there is not an end of life for desktop
Okay.
or on-premise. So,
And
the
and
big
again-
thing was access.
Yeah.
Access and freely, because your contractors and your engineering firm love the GIS being in the cloud and being able to access it from their phones in the field while they're there. They can pull up B permits, they can pull up as-built, they can see all of the infrastructure. What we're doing is we're also adding that history, the work history, along with it, accessible to them.
So they have access to cloud now?
Yeah, we have
GIS.
For
we have your
GIS.
GIS in the cloud too. It's on premise and it's in the cloud.
I have it on my phone.
Okay.
And I do use it. So if I'm, you know, if Alan says I'm at pump station X,
Right.
I can look and know exactly where he's at. You know, so this is basically just adding the work history. So if Alan is out on a call
Yeah.
and he's somewhere, he can actually look up and see when the last time it was serviced, if the part went bad, when was the last time that part was serviced. Can that be done VPN? No. So I think for $1,800, and I'm about as conservative with taxpayer dollars as you can get, and you know that. But I think for $1,800, I think that giving it to, you know, this information and having easy access by our engineers and our staff, I think it's a good investment. And I think we're gonna move there anyway.
So I have a question with regard to users. You talked about, you know, easy access and being able to log in and more people being able to log in, but this still is limited to 3 logins. So is there excess cost when you add additional users?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, it's a per
Either
user.
way.
Even with a VPN.
but you shouldn't truly need
VPN.
anybody else accessing it. Anything that is needed outside of the people who are entering the information or need it for maintenance purposes can be reported and given as far as reports. So you can get the information out of that and present it. There's not really a need for more than the people who are doing the work or who are making decisions based on the work, or as myself, the one entering all of that work history.
So you're saying 3 is fine?
3 is fine.
Is it?
We've been running on 1, even though we've had 3 for all of these years. No one else is, I've had the logins, but no one else is in there doing, checking, seeing what the history is, looking that stuff up. That's what I've been trying to change.
How long would this transition take?
Probably, I haven't got an exact date from them, but May 1st is the end of your existing maintenance agreement with them. This alteration will alter that agreement, and I hand them the data. How long it takes them to put it up there, I can't imagine it being more than a week or 2 before it's available. And truly, it's probably days.
So if we didn't approve this, and then we found out that the end's coming eventually, and, you know, we're still only a week away from potentially putting this out there at a later date, correct?
Right. You could do this when you get to end of life. Is it 3 simultaneous connections, or is it just 3 user IDs?
It's a unique email address tied to the user, is what it is.
Okay. There's different ways they do that. Sometimes you can have 1 million users, but only 1 or 2 or 3 can connect at the same time. They'll
Yeah.
charge that way, but what he's suggesting is it's just actually 3 different users. So somebody would get, you know, 2 somebodies would get the address, but if we've been using 1 and it hasn't been a problem till now, I can't imagine 3 is gonna be an issue.
Yes.
With the real-time automated backups, I guess how are we currently backing it up?
Well, you do it here with your IT contracted, and that backs up the server, the databases, and SQL.
And that's already included in our current cost?
Current IT, yep. Yep.
So if we were to transition to software as a service, would it save any costs in-house from server maintenance here that's going on now?
Nominally, the backup wouldn't save you anything because they've got to configure backups to run on the other stuff. So, you know, they're just picking up all of the data. I mean, there might be some very nominal incremental saving there, but the basic cost to have, you know, backup, which we're going to have anyway, we just bought a new system.
I was gonna say, the board just approved all new servers, everything else.
With
We
all
have
the backups.
redundancy on our backups, all that sort of stuff. So to answer the question, no, I don't think there'd be any cost.
The cost of updating the CityWorks program would be eliminated, even though that's not real frequent. But right now, we're paying Jeff's company to do that, and that would go away.
Can you quantify that?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how update you want to be. If you want to always be, I don't always update it to the latest version of CityWorks. You don't use every bit of the functionality in the software, so there's not a need. I do it minimally one time a year to the latest version. It's about 4 to 5 hours of my time.
And so how much does that cost the township?
I'm at $80 an hour, so $400.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So to extrapolate that, instead of 18, it'd be about $1,400 a year. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve amendment number 1 to the CityWorks license and maintenance agreement between the Charter Township of Fenton and Azteca Systems, LLC as presented. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Support.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Gopel.
No.
Tucker.
No.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Patrick.
No.
Reed.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Kinda hate
change
that.
these sheets,
You
yeah.
gotta hate
How did that happen, Bob?
Especially when you got the.
Yeah, and I got this sheet, shows you how sometimes.
I've never heard him say before when he was doing that. Never. Not once.
I vote no.
All right.
Motion fails.
Motion fails. All right. Moving on to, next under new business is proposed Gage Cemetery mapping project. Jeff is also here, and he's the one making the proposal, so.
Yes. So one thing that we have looked at for many years with the use of GIS, it is your system of record for your infrastructure, for your parcels. It is the go-to. It is the source of what your data is for both of them, and it is supposed to be the exact thing. I want to do the same thing with your Gage Cemetery. You guys have the Gage Cemetery, and as you see the map that you see on the screen, that's all you have for mapping of the Gage Cemetery currently. What we want to do is we want to map the cemetery sections, block lots, plots in the new expansion area only, mainly because of records in the old historical area, and you're not selling plots still there in the old historical area. So this is just only on the new expansion area. We would import the data that is currently held in Excel to maintain what the current status is of the cemetery, and we'd create a web application for the public to view and search for available plots or to search for deceased. We can promote that on the cemetery and the application on the website, embedded in your website, your new website. It makes managing the cemetery much easier. The entire cost, including training staff to maintain it and run it from there going forward, is $7,000 for the whole project. This is an example of what it would look like, okay? So this is the city of Plymouth, Wisconsin, their online cemetery. That's the exact same thing as what we will set up. You come into a introductory paragraph that tells you that this is an online mapping and who the contact is if you have any questions, which would be Julie Lewis here at the Township. Then you would go to, you'd say okay to this, and you have the ability to search for the deceased name, last first name, or the birth or death year of the person if you're looking. One thing about Gage Cemetery is it's small cemetery, and not a lot of people know about it. I don't think you sell very many plots out of there. I think this will increase the availability and the knowledge that you guys have it, that there's available plots there to purchase. So we'd be able to search. I'm sorry, can you back up one slide? Thank you. Forward. So we can search by the deceased name, we can search by the birth or death year, and the last thing would be searching by available lots to purchase, so that residents can go right from home and see what's available there, search for family members. And this is an example of a search. You type in a last name. I typed in my last name in this Wisconsin one. 3 burial plots came up that had names. It pops up with whatever information you guys want to make accessible to them can be accessible via this site. And then it pops up and locates exactly where they're located.
Hopefully you weren't one of the 3.
No, I was not.
Okay.
And nor was it a family member. I just happened to type it in and there were 3 in there. So last thing is we would have also a search, which this does not have, as a search for available lot or plots. Because that truly is where Gage Cemetery is not a big profit making for the township, but it's a liability for the township to take care of and maintain and do. We're looking to promote it so that you can sell the lots, so that truthfully it can start paying for itself a little bit. And on top of it, your residents should have access to people who are buried there and not have to call the township and talk to them or go out there and wander around to find residents.
But this doesn't include the historical portion.
It does not, and mainly,
What year delineates historical versus current?
it's mainly geography. It's your new, or your area that has available.
So this expansion, I'm seeing 110 lots
Times 6.
times 6. How many are in there now?
I don't know that number because I haven't went to that
Couple of
depth of
dozen.
finding out how many are there.
What?
In the new section, we've got maybe a couple dozen
Oh.
that we've sold since we. since
In
we
the
met.
new area?
Yeah.
I thought he was
got
asking
room
how many
for-
were in the old area.
We've got room for, so 648 more?
Yes.
Something like that.
Close. And I think Julie was saying that the price was averaging around $400.
Right now, they're 400, so we sell 18 that we wouldn't have sold before it pays for this in pretty short order.
Where you guys getting the number of lots? I'm not seeing it when I have.
Well, each one of those numbered rectangles has 6 burial spaces in it.
You guys all
I
counted
guess the
those?
gauge is a lot bigger
Well,
than
they're
I thought
numbered.
it was.
They're numbered.
Here's what I'm, go back up further.
Oh, am I looking at the wrong thing? Cause it's teeny weeny on mine. I would never be able to count it.
Yeah,
That's the old one.
no, I think that's the new one.
That's the new section of,
No. This is on the first screen is the.
yes. Yeah,
I thought he said that was what we have right now for the existing.
That's the new section that was mapped out about 20 years ago.
So
it's the southern section of the property.
this is what we have for the new section right now.
Right.
Correct.
Now I'm
Yes.
slowly catching up.
Yeah. The old section is not really mapped. That's something that's a different project.
Yeah.
That's probably not a GIS thing, but maybe a genealogist assisted project to identify who's there.
Do we have the records?
Some,
Okay.
not everything.
In my day job, I represent a couple of cemeterians, not seminarians, cemeterians. And you would be shocked at how much litigation there is over misburials, mislocation kinds of things. There's literally a cottage industry of lawyers that go around suing cemeteries for mom ain't where she's supposed to be. Or,
Would us, no
Yes.
pun intended, digging into this,
yes.
open us, that up for us?
No, this would be the defense. This would
Yes,
be-
you
I'm
get a
talking the
defense.
historical area.
Yeah.
Is there an issue with that, or is that too far?
No,
out of the realm
if you
of-
own a cemetery, you have that potential problem. It's small enough, and, so far, I'm not aware of any of those kinds of issues.
Would advertising the cemetery now kind of bring these cottage injury lawyers to this historical site to bring this potential up?
Don't know the answer to that, I wouldn't think so. I would think this would have the opposite effect, it would probably discourage that kind of stuff, because then you're basically containing the potential liabilities in the historical section. So anyway, long story short, I think that's $7,000 well spent just from a liability standpoint, but from a resident standpoint, it certainly makes it more usable.
Well, I would like to say too that Tom, Julie and I met with Jeff when we went over this, and Julie was highly in support of it. She couldn't talk enough about it, and when you extrapolate the numbers, I mean, it's 18 plots we have to sell. This is a one-time charge to maintain this. With our new website and everything else, I think it's a great addition, and I think it's a taxpayers' money well spent.
Yeah.
Like you said, I agree with you. I think it would be just the opposite of someone looking
It's a
to
shield.
sue us. It's a shield to say.
No, but you
"We've
said
mapped
cottage
it."
industry of
Yeah.
lawyers,
Yeah.
and you understand that that's not necessarily the right thing to be. You know what I mean?
No,
I mean, just
It's a
because you
dirty
don't
word,
think it's
yeah.
gonna be, if you're starting to advertise this thing, and you got these guys out here
Yeah.
sniffing around looking for this.
Don't point at me when you do
Wow.
that.
Buddy, I've pointed a lot at you in 18 years. But, no, I'm thinking of Oakwood and Fenton, where they have a Revolutionary War soldier buried there. Revolution, 1700s, Revolutionary War. And all they have, they have it marked very well, and there can't be adequate, records. And, maybe just, I assume, because I'm really ignorant as far as, this is connected to the historical area?
Just adjacent to it. I
Yeah,
suppose.
it's
So,
adjacent to it. It's in the
a
same-
fence or something, just to identify that as.
Probably not, it's probably.
No, it's open. I mean, there's a fence around the whole property, but the driveway
I
actually
understand that,
comes
but I
around
mean, like,
between.
same as Oakwood, but they also have a separate fenced-in area, or it says historical, kind of. Is that something we would want to designate it as that, to kind of shield us from? I'm for it, because I think people have a right to know, and I certainly, you know, the genealogy is huge now. But I'm just thinking, maybe just to advertise that as a historical area so people can actually sit there and, you know.
So I don't have much foreknowledge of the cemeteries and stuff, but so I was trying to look this up and I found something called findagrave.com.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it really works as a
It works,
functionality.
it's legit.
Okay, so it does, you know, list our cemetery, and one of the things that says about, so there's, I guess, both I wanna know how much we're really adding if there's already a private solution out there, and then, it does say, about the cemetery, despite its age, this is an active cemetery, lots of empty spaces for more burials, it was established in 1856, it's owned and operated by Fenton Township, then it says there are many broken stones, as well as many old markers that have deteriorated, making it impossible to read them for any transcription. So, I guess just as sort of maybe a sense of the liability we might be worried about if, you know, people can go to the cemetery and visually see that.
I think the designation of historical area would kind of make that expected in those areas.
Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to mention that, and I guess I was curious, so if that already lets people find, you know, deceased who are buried in the cemetery, then we're not adding quite as much.
It really with, I'm familiar with the findagrave.com because we do a lot of genealogical research in our house. And it's from volunteers photographing and uploading photos of the tombstones along with whatever information they can find from them. It's not an official anything other than just, you know.
So it wouldn't tell you necessarily like where in the cemetery exactly the person is.
No, I think that, you know, if they upload the photo, that cemetery's small enough you could walk around for 5 minutes and find the
Okay.
matching photo. But I think if it's helpful, we may be able to find a consultant who can help us create a map of the existing. And we do have some records that have been in the files for several decades. The funniest story I remember is the reason they stopped using the old section is because Carl Gabrielson's told this story. The last time they had a burial was in the wintertime, and when the snow melted, they found out they had buried the gentleman in the driveway. So the driveway was subsequently moved, so the gentleman can rest in peace. But that was the end of the old section being used, and then we moved on to this new section.
Thanks.
How old is the cemetery, do we know? How far back?
1856.
That's 1800s.
Wow.
But literally, like not to keep, last thing I'll say, but in Fenton, they actually have it's like a park. It's got a map covered in plexiglass, and it kind of shows what person is in what general area of that. So, I mean, speaking of some historian to come in here and do that, I mean, it's fascinating. I think 7,000 is money well spent for those.
I agree. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion to approve the proposal from North Arrow Technologies, Inc. to create and implement a GIS-based solution for the management of cemetery plots and Gage Cemetery as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Motion's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Kessler.
Yes.
Krug votes yes. Reed.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, next under new business is proposed local road improvement project, North Long Lake. I'm sure we've all reviewed the memo in our packet. Operations Manager or Broker, will you please review?
Yes, the proposal is to pave, 3-foot paved shoulder on North Long Lake Road on the lake side from Wiggins to the start of the Fenton Harbor condos property. The reason is, and if you drive over there or near there, you can see it, how deep the ruts get. I think the problem is people come around the curve, see, oh, what a beautiful lake, and then they drift off the road. And it's become a real hazard, because now if you fall off the road, you could break a wheel or an axle, because it gets very deep. So we do have a proposal from the road commission to pave that $53,000. Alex from the road commission did say that's probably really high from what it's really gonna cost, but because engineering put the proposal together, it's all inclusive. So, adding that to our projects already approved, it does put us about a little more than 50,000 above our budget for the year. We are in the process of contacting townships. We may be able to pick up that difference in 50/50 allocation of funds, in which case we wouldn't even need to amend the budget. But if not, a budget amendment may be necessary to accommodate all the projects. I think it's money well spent for this year's road projects. And I think it fixes a real problem we have in that area.
Thanks, Tom. I'll speak to the fact that because I live there, I do witness almost on a daily basis, especially on the weekend on a beautiful day and the sail club's out on Sunday. As they come around the corner, they're going east. They're looking at the lake, they're looking at the boats. They'll either pull over or they will literally fall over the cliff. And it is dangerous. Since that area has been developed and there's green grass, there's a lot of children that walk that area, and I do fear that one of these days somebody is going to fall off that deep cliff and head towards the water, injuring themselves or someone else. Also, last year, I think, Tom, I made some calls and was able to procure $50,000 that we did not have to pay back. As you know, a lot of municipalities have money that they can't afford to spend, that they're allocated from the county, but they can't afford the matching funds. And I will promise the board that I'll work as hard as I can to get the $50,000.
So this is just adding 3 feet on, this isn't doing anything with the existing road? Okay.
It's paving the 3 feet.
They'll
Additional.
take care of the ruts in that lane, but
Yeah, that's what the fire trucks make.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Chief's fault. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I'll move the resolution.
Support.
All right. Motion's been moved and supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Clerk Crew, will you please call the roll?
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Crew votes yes, motion passes.
Thanks, Bob. All right, moving on to the next business in order is board comment. Is there anyone on the board has additional comments or concerns? Anything from the board? All right, moving on to public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. I'll now open up the meeting for public comment on agenda or non-agenda items. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come up and speak to the board on agenda or non-agenda items? No one? All right, we'll move on. Is there anyone that has joined us via Zoom that would like to address the board on agenda or non-agenda items? Nobody? All right, if there's no one either present or visiting us via Zoom to address this board, hearing none, it is now 7:29 p.m. If there's nothing else, I say good night. The meeting is adjourned.
I take full responsibility for being an hour and